Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
Yo, it's your boy, the odd guy himself, Malik King Scotty.
Hi, I'm Charlie Edwards.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 92 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Mr. Joey Coastman, and I'm joined by the ever-elusive Mr. Ayaz Sumra. Ayaz, how you doing?
I'm good, Joey. How are you?
Very good, my friend, very good. So, right, just before we get into things, I'm going to tell our listeners this show will probably be a little bit shorter than the usual amount of time that the shows go on for. Usually it's about an hour and 10 minutes, something like that. This one, I'd be pretty surprised if it's anywhere near an hour. I think it's probably going to be about a 40-minute job, something like that. Right, we're going to fly through things because there's not too much to go through this week. It's not really been a busy week of boxing. We're going to start with the review part of the show, of course, as always. We're going to review some of the fights from last weekend. There was one fight to mention that happened over in the Palacio de los Deportes in Benidorm, Spain. Kiko Martinez bouncing back from his loss. He picked up win number 37. He picked up a TKO win in the fourth round over a man called Franklin Varela, who's now got a record of 22-34. So, yeah, quite a few losses, decent amount of wins there as well. It was actually a cut, so decent win on paper there for Kiko Martinez. I suppose he gets another win in Spain. Moving over now to the USA at the Belasco Theatre, a couple fights to mention from last week again. Edgar Valerio moved to 11-0 with a unanimous decision win over Jairo Ochoa. That one was a unanimous decision win over 8 rounds, by the way. Ochoa was actually down in round 1 and 2. Valerio was down in round 2 as well. Ochoa was cut under the left eye in round 6, so it had a few ups and downs there, especially for the young prospect Edgar Valerio. He's been on the deck there. Nonetheless, he got up and won unanimously. Also on that bill, Joshua Franco, he moved to 12-0 with a 6-round unanimous decision win for him over Antonio Rodriguez. So a decent win there for Joshua Franco. I'd like to see him step it up a little bit. Moving over now to Germany, one fight to mention on this bill, Firat Arslan. He picked up win number 40. He's got 8 losses and 2 draws inside 50 fights now. Huge. He took on Goran Delic and he knocked him out in round 6. He also now becomes the WBO European Cruiserweight Champion, Mr. Arslan. The belt was vacant, so he's picked up the vacant title there. Good win for him. He'll probably get another shot. I'm surprised they didn't look at him for the for the Cruiserweight Super Series, but I'm happy they didn't, to be honest. But he is a bit of a name, I suppose, in Eastern Europe. Right, moving over now to the Winter Gardens in Blackpool, Lancashire, United Kingdom. One fight to mention on this bill. Nathan Gorman was supposed to take on Nick Webb. I'm not quite sure why that fight didn't happen. It would have been quite good to see 2 unbeaten heavyweight contenders, or contenders to a certain level in the UK, both prospects, I suppose. But that fight didn't happen. He ended up taking on Antonio Sosa, who had a record of 4-5 with 1 draw. Nathan Gorman got the man out of there in round 5. He's now 10-0. Sosa was actually down in the second round of that fight as well. Moving over now to the Wembley Arena, the real big card of the weekend in many ways. We're going to start with the undercard. I'm going to start with Chris Kongo. He moved to 5-0, promising prospect, a points win over 4 rounds against the very tough and rugged journeyman William Warburton, which was William Warburton's 150th pro bout. His record after 150 fights, 23 wins, 118 losses and 9 draws. So Chris Kongo did well to win that fight. Also on the bill, Nathaniel Wilson. That's actually a son of Chris Eubanks Sr. I as far as I knew, was under the impression that they didn't really get on. I don't think Chris Eubanks Sr. really wanted to know him, but he ended up on Chris Eubanks Jr.'s undercard here, so I'm not quite sure what's gone on. But yeah, he moved to 4-0 with a TKO in round 2 against a man whose name I can't pronounce. He only had 1 win and 9 losses, now 10 losses and 1 draw. So yeah, Nathaniel Wilson now 4-0 with 1 draw. Good win for him. Also moving up the card, Martin J. Ward. He picked up his 3rd successful defence of the British title. He's now won it outright just a couple of weeks after Bradley Skeet did it. Obviously this one, lower down in weight, of course. He took on Anthony Kakachi, a man who was unbeaten, a man that many people thought or believe, was a very talented fighter. It was a really good fight. Some people actually had Kakachi winning the fight. It was very close, as I said, both men undefeated there. It was a good clash of styles. It made for a decent fight, but Martin J. Ward gets the win on paper. He's now 18-0 with 2 draws, and hopefully we'll see him push on perhaps to European level, something like that. Good win for him, unanimously over 12 rounds. Also on the bill, Kid Galahad. He opened up the TV card against Jose Cayetano. Cayetano 21-5, Kid Galahad 22-0. They were actually calling him Kid Gallagher a few times in commentary, which was, a bit weird, to be honest. This one was also for the vacant IBF Inter-Continental Featherweight title. Kid Galahad looked really good. He pretty much won every round and got his man out there in the 10th. So, really impressive performance there from Kid Galahad. He seemed to deal with Cayetano. He dominated him. He probably looked a little bit better doing it than Scott Quigg did. So, he put on a bit of a clinic. I'd like to see him moved up against some guys that we actually know, some guys that are, in that position where they've got a credible name still, something like that, maybe a contender, something like that, a fringe world level guy. We definitely need to see Kid Galahad pushed. I want to see him signed with a proper promoter. I still think he's without a promoter at the moment, if I'm not mistaken. Also moving up the card, very, very bad loss here for Robbie Davies Jr. He was 15-0. We had him on the show a few weeks ago. He took on the Polish Michael Sirowatka, 18-1. Some people were saying this was a complete mismatch. I don't really think these people know too much about boxing. Some people were saying this was a walk in the park fight for Robbie Davies Jr. going in. I actually had quite a good look at Michael Sirowatka. He looked to be a decent fighter, and he certainly showed up. He was down in round 9, but he knocked Davies Jr. out in the 12th and final round. So very unfortunate that he couldn't just see out the last matter of seconds really to get through that fight, because for me he was winning on the cards at the time of the stoppage, so I felt quite gutted for Robbie Davies Jr. He's obviously got a lot going on outside of the ring as well. He's a really, really good guy, so I was gutted for him, man. But he picks up his first loss there, 15-1. O'Hara Davies has been on Twitter saying some stuff. Really and truly, I'd like to see that fight happen. Hopefully, both coming off a loss there, that'd be quite good. But I feel for him, man. I really do, because he's a really good fighter, but he just kind of ran out of steam, slowed down a little bit. He got caught with a good few shots. He's definitely tough. There's no way in the world you can question his chin. But it all just became a bit too much in the later part of that fight. Also on the bill, Lee Selby. Now, I really felt for Lee Selby during fight week. Obviously, his mother passed away a few days before the fight, about 3 days before the fight. To knuckle down and be able to just shut that out of your head and concentrate on a fight of that magnitude. He wasn't just fighting a journeyman. He wasn't just fighting, a British level kind of fight, and I'm not knocking British level, obviously. He's fighting for a world title. Obviously, it's his world title. He's defending his world title. It's against a man that was no pushover. Obviously, Jonathan Victor Barros, a pretty tough guy, typical South American kind of style, very tough, come forward. Lee Selby was, he's just outstanding. Some of his shot selections, the class, the boxing off the back foot, really good. He actually had him down in the 12th round. When Lee Selby put Barros down, I thought that was amazing. So I think he put on a brilliant performance despite all this stuff going on outside the ring. Like I say, I really don't know how he still went ahead with a fight. I really thought he was way within his rights to pull out of that fight, because your mum dying's a big thing, of course, and to show his professionalism there and just knuckle down and get on with it, really classy from Lee Selby. Great performance as well. So he's now 25-1. He gets another defense of the IBF World Featherweight title. He'll be looking at the Frampton fight. He definitely wants that next. Jonathan Victor Barros 41-5 now with 1 draw. And the main event, of course, Chris Eubank Jr., 24-1 going in, took on Arthur Abraham, 46-5 going in. It was for the IBO World Super Middleweight title, Chris Eubank's belt, of course. Now, I'm going to go over to you, Ayaz, before I give my thoughts on this fight. What did you make of Chris Eubank Jr., Arthur Abraham?
I think Chris Eubank Jr. Performed very good, very, very good in that fight. Obviously, a lot of people criticize Chris Eubank Jr. for not having that punching power. But to be honest, he's moved up from a middleweight to a super middleweight. In my opinion, I reckon Chris Eubank Jr. is actually a middleweight, not a super middleweight. But we know Arthur Abraham. In my opinion, Arthur Abraham is a tank. If you look at the shots that Chris Eubank is hitting him, he was hitting him with that right hook, but that uppercut with Chris Eubank Jr. What is it with him? He's got speed, but his uppercut, and obviously he was hitting that uppercut quite a few times to Arthur Abraham, and Arthur Abraham was just standing there. I remember Arthur Abraham was giving some very good shots, but Chris Eubank Jr. he performed very good on that night, and now he's the final competitor for that World Boxing Tournament.
Yeah, obviously we all knew that the winner of that fight was going to be entered into that tournament. I really hope he stays in it. There's obviously a lot of speculation. The Eubanks are very unpredictable. Hopefully he stays in there, and he's I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's got a really good opponent in front of him just for his first fight. So hopefully they stick to their guns, and hopefully, because if they were to pull out, then I think Arthur Abraham would probably step in. So we don't really want to see that. A couple of notes I want to throw in. Obviously, we all know that Chris Eubank's uppercutting is just one of the best in boxing. He was very speedy. That punch power, obviously we all know he's not the biggest puncher. Arthur Abraham's one of the toughest guys as well at that weight. So to not get him out of there is not really surprising. I always thought that Chris Eubank was going to win on points. I think you agreed with me, Ayaz, as well. Arthur Abraham pretty much lost every round. He just got outworked, and that was all it really was. He definitely looked a little bit old in there as well. As for Chris Eubank being at super middleweight, that was his real first kind of acid test at super middleweight. That Reynold Quinlan wasn't really offering much up. But I think he did pretty well. I mean, he completely shut him out, I think. So on my card anyway. So yeah, he kind of did a job like Gilberto Ramirez did. So yeah, I think he sets up some impressive fights in the future. Obviously, we're going to be looking for what Chris Eubank Jr. does next. Again, he's supposed to have this fight. Hopefully, he takes it. But we need to see him step it up. He took a very slow step up there against Arthur Abraham. Obviously, we all knew the age factor. We all knew that it was a step up, but it wasn't the kind of step up that we're expecting at this point of his career. But no, he got through it. He did well. You couldn't have really asked for more. The stoppage was always a little bit far-fetched against someone like Abraham when you don't possess that power. And yeah, maybe he's not really best suited at super middleweight, Ayaz. Maybe he should be down at middleweight. But, nonetheless, a very good performance from him. And like I say, he's got a very bright future as long as he fights these big-name fighters, because we need to really see how good he really is. And if he does stay in this Super 8 tournament, then we will see that for sure. Moving over now to the Forum, Inglewood, California. I actually watched 3 bills on Saturday night. It was a really busy Saturday night for me. I watched the Eubank card, obviously. Then I watched the PBC card. And then, streamed that one, just like I did the Eubank one, actually. So sorry about that. And I ended up watching the Box Nation card, which was obviously over in the Forum, Inglewood, which I'm just about to mention. Firstly, I'm going to start on this card with the Joe Smith Jr. and Sullivan Barrera fight. Joe Smith Jr., we all said he had a fantastic 2016. Went into this fight against Sullivan Barrera. I actually said it on last week's show. I said I think this is a little bit of a step too far. I think Barrera's too good of a boxer for Joe Smith to be able to walk through. I think that Sullivan Barrera is very underrated. That one loss coming to Andre Ward, obviously. Now, Joe Smith Jr. had a really good start to the fight. He obviously dropped Barrera in round 1. It was for the WBC International Light Heavyweight title. When he dropped him in round 1, I thought, wow, he's going to actually knock this guy out, and it's going to just be unbelievable. If he knocks out Barrera, Bernard Hopkins and Andre Fonfara in about 18 months, that's just unbelievable. So yeah, he had a really good start, but if I'm not mistaken, and I've heard this since the fights ended, but I don't really think Joe Smith Jr. wanted to make too much of a big deal about it, but I'm not sure if it's facts or rumour, but apparently Joe Smith Jr. had his jaw broken in like the first or second round. So for the duration of the fight, after having his jaw broke, he was boxing rather than coming forward really aggressively. He was trying to box off the back foot a little bit to kind of, protect his jaw. And he just doesn't know how to fight like that. He's not good enough fighting like that. That's not his style. So it ended up being a pretty clear Barrera win for me. I didn't want him to win because I really do like Joe Smith. He's very down to earth. Obviously, we all know he's a construction worker by day and a boxer by night, as it seems. So, he's an everyday type of guy. He's your typical next door neighbour. And, it was a real shame because this might have kind of ended the gravy train a little bit. But I do want to see him jump back on it because I just think that was a bad matchup in terms of styles. I think the Sullivan-Barrera fight really is kind of like high risk, low reward. And I didn't really think it was a great fight. I thought it was going to be really good, don't get me wrong, but I thought it was a little bit too tough. I think he's had some good fights and I think he kind of deserves a bit of a soft touch, and this was not a soft touch by any means. So I feel a little bit sorry for Joe Smith Jr., but nonetheless, Sullivan-Barrera picks up a 10-round unanimous decision. It was funny because it was actually scheduled for 12 on the TV. The commentators ringside were even saying on the telecast that we've got it down as a 12-rounder, but it was actually a 10-rounder. So I bet Joe Smith was happy about that, seeing as he had to, nurse a broken jaw throughout that fight. So Sullivan-Barrera now 20-1, Joe Smith Jr. 23-2. Good win there, I suppose, for Barrera over the stretch. Also going over to the main event, I suppose, Miguel Berchelt against Takashi Miura. This one was obviously for the WBC World Super Featherweight title, Miguel Berchelt's belt. Now, Miura was down in round one. We all thought that this fight was going to be a really, real war, a slugfest, stuff like that. And it didn't really live up to that. It kind of turned into a little bit of a boxing match for the most part. I don't think Miura really did too well. I think he wasn't really fighting too smart. I think he was, not using his tools properly. I think Berchelt was happy to accommodate that, and he kind of sat back, boxed a little bit, and he looked the classier guy in there, the way the two guys were fighting. So Berchelt ends up picking up a 12th round unanimous decision win. He's now 32-1. He picks up a defense of that title, and Takashi Miura now 31-4 with 2 draws. He'll be scratching his head. He'll have to go back to the drawing board. Also on that bill as well, Jezreel Corrales 21-1 took on Robinson Castellanos 24-12 going in. It was for the WBA World Super Featherweight title, obviously Corrales' belt. Now, it was a funny old fight. Corrales was down twice in round 4. Castellanos was down in round 7. Castellanos was cut in the middle of his forehead in round 2. It was pretty grim, and also cut under the right eye in round 7. Both of those, by the way, were from accidental headbutts. Corrales was also cut on the right eye in round 3. That one was a legal punch that opened that cut up. But ultimately, the fight ended up being stopped due to a Castellanos cut caused by an accidental headbutt. It ended up being stopped in round 10, so it went down as a technical decision. So I think a little bit of the round 10 was actually scored as well, if I'm not mistaken. But it ends up being a technical decision win for the champion, Jezreel Corrales. So he's now 22-1. Robinson Castellanos 24-13. But no, in some ways it was a war. It was one of those ones where it puts a bit of mileage on the clock for both fighters here. It kind of was the war that we expected Berchelt and Miura to deliver, but, the undercard delivered it. So all in all, it was a decent card for Box Nation. But blood everywhere. And Corrales, I suppose, does well for being on the deck twice in round 4 to actually get up and win a decision. So, really, really pleased for him. Moving over now to the Nassau Coliseum in Uniontown, New York, USA. This is one of the last cards to mention from last week. I'm going to start with Brandon Figueroa, the brother of Omar Figueroa. He moved to 13-0 with a unanimous decision win against his opponent, who had a record of 28-6 with 3 draws. So his name was Fatil Fasinu, I think it was. So Brandon Figueroa now 13-0, unanimous decision win over 8 rounds. Also on that bill, Jamal James beat Jojo Dan. Jojo Dan now 36-5. Jamal James 21-1, a unanimous decision win over 10 rounds. I didn't actually see that Jojo Dam fight, but yeah, he's not a good fighter at all. Also, very upset about this. Artur Szpilka, 20-2. He's obviously fought at a higher level than his opponent here, Adam Kalnacki, 15-0. Yeah, and I really thought Szpilka was going to do a job on him, but no, it wasn't to be. Szpilka got caught with a few big shots in the fourth round. I think he was probably winning the few rounds before. I missed a little bit of it. I just saw the knockout pretty much. I've heard a few things, but no, a TKO in round 4 for Adam Kalnacki. He's now 16-0 for the New York-based Polishman. Yeah, so very gutted for Artur Szpilka. Some people saying he needs to retire. I think that's a little bit harsh. He's a good guy, but that certainly wasn't him in that ring. But Kalnacki may be the next best thing. Who knows? I think he's a little bit old, but we'll have to wait and see. Artur Szpilka now 20-3, but a big loss to him. He has to go back to Poland with the shame of that. Also on the bill, Marcus Brown, 19-0, took on Shawnee Monaghan, 28-0. A really good fight on paper. Marcus Brown, all in all, was a little bit too seasoned for Shawnee Monaghan. Marcus Brown, obviously, with that amateur pedigree, the two actually knew each other really well. They'd done many rounds sparring. Marcus Brown just had too much about him straight away. Shawnee Monaghan's not really good with his defence. Marcus Brown started very fast. He actually had Monaghan down in round 1. Monahan, they actually call him Monahan, I should be saying. Monahan was down in round 1, and I actually was very surprised that he got through that first round. I wanted him to get through the first round because, you know, it's never good when you see a fight end in the first round like that. And yeah, he got through the first round, come out in the second, and straight away Marcus Brown jumped all over him, did what you're supposed to do when a man's hurt, and TKO'd him in round 2. So a brilliant win there for Marcus Brown. He's now 20-0. Shawnee Monaghan 28-1. Really good fight. I really enjoyed that. And now the main event of this card. This again was the PBC card from last Saturday. A man that was on our show, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was last week, Omar Figueroa Jr., 26-0, returning to the ring after 19 months out. He's got one draw as well. He took on Robert the Ghost Guerrero, 33-5 with one draw. Boy, oh boy. Firstly, Robert Guerrero did really well in round 1, I thought. He seemed to kind of look like the old Guerrero. He was really boxing. He wasn't sort of mixing it up. He wasn't in a war. He was just boxing really smart. Omar Figueroa, I think he's noted to kind of start a little bit slow. That seemed to be the case, and I was a little bit worried because in that first round I thought that he even was in a little bit of trouble, Omar Figueroa there. But no, Guerrero was knocked down 3 times in round 2. Omar Figueroa came out after that first round that wasn't really a great first round for him. He came out in round 2 on a seek and destroy mission. He really was. He put Guerrero down 3 times in round 2, and Guerrero, to be honest, did really well to actually survive that round. He came out in round 3, and I think he was knocked down once, and then he got back up and absolutely went wild. And he ended up getting knocked down again. So he was down 5 times in total, Robert Guerrero. So that was a huge win. A really explosive, brilliant looking win there for Omar Figueroa. He's now 27-0 with one draw. Robert Guerrero now 33-6 with one draw inside 40 fights. And he's also decided 2 days after that fight to hang up the gloves and retire. He's a man that's probably hung around the game a little bit too long. He's achieved absolutely shed loads, so he can hold his head high wherever he goes, because he's had a really good career, but he's kind of neglected his boxing skills and turned into a bit of a warrior, and we don't really like to see people go on too long when they decide to fight like that, especially a man who once upon a time was a really good boxer. So yeah, probably the right time for him to retire before it starts, before he kind of starts demolishing his legacy. So, Ayaz, I know that you also watched this fight here, Omar Figueroa Jr. and Robert Guerrero. What did you make of it? An absolute war for those 3 rounds.
Oh, I think it was a war. I think Omar Figueroa obviously has been out for 18 months. Is that correct? Yeah?
I think it was 19. I may be mistaken.
Okay, 19 months, right. But it looks like he hasn't been outside the ring. Obviously, Robert Guerrero is a 2-weight world champion, and we've seen him in fights. Who's he fought? He fought Danny Garcia, he's fought Keith Thurman, he's fought Floyd Mayweather Jr., he's fought Andre Butter, and he's fought all these top fighters, right? He's been a very good fight, and obviously, the way Omar Figueroa dropped him was unbelievable. He's it was a very good fight, and the way he's beaten him was very, very good. And obviously, after the fight, we just seen in the news recently that Robert Guerrero has successfully retired. Obviously, that's good luck to him in the future, and obviously, he's had a successful career. He's become a two-weight world champion.
Yeah, and as you say, I echo your words there, Ayaz. We wish him all the very best of luck. He's a good guy. I remember he put his boxing career on hold to look after his wife who had cancer for a while. So, a quality guy. We wish him all the very best with whatever venture he decides or whatever road he decides to go down or venture to follow. So, all the very best to him. Last thing I'm going to say on that, Omar Figueroa did look a tiny bit fleshy for me. I think his best weight's probably 140. He's going to try and get back down there. He needs to get back down there, but really good performance from him. He looked really exciting there. And finally, the final card to mention from last week, it was happening over in the Rapids Coliseum in Alexandria, Louisiana, USA. This fight actually happened Tuesday of this week, so a couple days ago it actually happened. The results come in, obviously. There was one fight really, or two fights to mention on this card. Edwin Rodriguez, 28-2. He picked up a TKO in round 2 at cruiserweight against Melvin Russell, 10-1, now 10-2 with 2 draws. So decent win there for Edwin Rodriguez. And the main reason why we're focusing on this card, the former IBF Heavyweight World Champion Charles Martin made his return to the ring on Tuesday night fights. He moved to 25 wins, with 1 loss, obviously, to Anthony Joshua and 1 draw. It was a KO in round 1 against Michael Marone. So an explosive win there for Charles Martin. Some people say he's gone crazy, but if you actually look, he's weighing in less than he did for the Joshua fight. So he must be taking training very seriously. Right, that's it for the review, and it's now time to welcome guest number 1. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former IBF Featherweight Champion of the World, Mr. Billy Dibb. Billy, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate you.
Hey, thank you so much. Right, so Billy, last time we spoke, it was in December of last year. It was the week of your last fight. You won that fight by a first round knockout. I know you wasn't too happy with the referee's performance, but nonetheless you closed out what was a very rocky 2016 on a high. Now, some listeners wouldn't know this, but me and Billy have got a really good relationship, and I looked at our conversation today, actually, the conversation that we had in December of last year, and I said to you that 2017 can only be better than 2016, because 2016, as I said, it was very rocky. And straight away you've made the move to the States. You're now fighting out of the Robert Garcia gym. How did that come about, and how is that going for you, Bill?
Well, it's going really, really well, to be honest. And the way it came about was I got in contact with Robert Garcia, and I asked him that if I sent him some footage of my last couple of fights, if he could analyze it and let me know what he thought, and whether he'd be interested in working with me. And he simply replied back by saying, I'm very, very impressed with what I've seen. And he said, I love challenges, so yes, I'd definitely love to work with you. So what I did was I just made my way to the US, spent some time in a camp with Robert. We got to know each other and spent some time working together, and we got along really, really well. And he invited me back, and now thankfully, through a great relationship with Mikey and his team, I've been able to land on the undercard of Broner versus Mikey, which is a really, really good opportunity for me.
Yeah, it certainly is. And obviously you're training alongside Mikey Garcia. Who else is actually in that gym, Billy?
Oh, it's the who's of boxing, to be honest with you. It's a lot of stars are in that gym. You got obviously you got Mikey, you got Abner Mares, you've got Josecito Lopez, then you've got Eric De Leon, you've got Tanahara, you've got Frankie, you got Franco, you got Bam Bam. The list it just goes on. There's former Olympians, Misael. There's the Olympic silver medalist from the 2012 Olympics, the Brazilian kid. I mean, the gym is just an A-list gym, no doubt about that,
And Billy, who are you signed with now promotionally?
Basically, at the moment, I'm a free agent. I haven't been signed with anybody for a long time, but basically right now what I'm doing is working underneath Mikey and Robert. And, I think this fight's on our Heyman card. So, providing I have a good win and an impressive victory, I may find myself linked up to the our Heyman stable.
Hey, fingers crossed. And I actually thought to myself, to be honest, that you might have possibly signed for the, Haymaker ring star David Hayes' little thing at the moment. Was that ever a possibility?
Yeah. I mean, I spoke to David and told him that I'd love to do that. He never got back to me, but that's something that I'd definitely love to do. I'm really, really fond of David. He and I are good friends, and I'd definitely love to be part of that stable.
Yeah. So moving to the States, obviously a long way away from Australia, how are you finding the life over there aside from boxing?
I mean, everything's cool. I'm currently living with Mikey Garcia and his team, so it's been very hospitable. They've been very, very hospitable towards me, and I'm actually pretty happy over here. But basically, the situation is that I just come here for training camps and then I go back home to my family. So it's not like I'm here for a very, very long time. It's this time, by the time the fight gets here, I would have been here for just under 6 weeks. So, it's considered a really good camp, and I've come here in shape, and obviously working under Robert, I've gotten into better shape, and hopefully on July 29th, you guys are going to see a fantastic performance and a great victory.
Now, Billy, you're ranked third in the IBF rankings, but the first and second places are vacant. And also, I saw a document today that Tevin Farmer, who's ranked number 5, will now fight Francisco Fonseca, who's ranked number 7. And apparently, the winner of that will then be ranked number 1 and be the mandatory for the champion, Gervonta Davis's title. It's all a little bit confusing. Obviously, there was a period of time where you were linked with the Tevin Farmer fight. Why did that fight end up not happening?
Well, I'll tell you exactly what happened. What happened was that the IBF contacted me and said that I'm to start negotiations with the Japanese kid by the name of Kenichi Ogawa. When we reached out to Kenichi Ogawa's team, they turned the fight down. Next in line was another Japanese guy, and his team also turned the fight down, which then led to the fight with Farmer. And unfortunately for Farmer, he was injured at the time, and I couldn't afford to sit out until September or whatever day he wanted. To wait for his injury to get better, because I needed to get back in the ring. I hadn't been in the ring since December, so I contacted the IBF, and they said, "Look, we're happy to give you an extension, and in a year we allow you to have a fight." So basically, now what they're doing is just they'll let them fill the number spot. I don't have a problem with that. I spoke directly with Tevin Farmer, and Farmer asked me if I'd step aside and let him fight Gervonta, and I said, "Mate, I'm happy to do whatever you want. You want to fight Gervonta, be my guest, So he now gets this eliminator. I'm sure he'll win the eliminator and set up this whole title fight, and then we'll see what happens, But I'm just going to sit back and let it all unfold, and, when the time is right, I'll make sure that I'm in position to fight for that world title.
And obviously, instead of that fight, you're now going to be taking on Yardley Suarez, a man that he's got a record of 22-8, but only has really lost to a bunch of still undefeated prospects, maybe bar 1 or 2 losses. He's only 23, which was surprising because I think he's had about 30 fights. This will be his 31st fight. Do you know much about him at all, Billy?
Of course, I've seen a little bit of footage of Yardley. He's definitely... typical Mexican, tough, comes to fight. Obviously I've prepared really, really well. I don't take anybody lightly. I haven't underestimated him by no means. For me, every fight is a danger fight, and it could spell the end. So I work really, really hard, knowing that this is his opportunity to shine on a big stage, and I'm not going to allow him to do that.
And this will be your 10th fight in America, if I'm not mistaken. All of the 9 previous fights you've had in America have gone the distance. Do you believe that you can get your first knockout on American soil here, Billy?
Well, I hope so. I definitely hope so. I've been working really hard with Robert in the gym, and I believe that, God willing, that I'm going to go out there and have a really, really sensational performance. I'm not going to say that I'm going to be looking for the knockout because, for me, a win is a win. I'm not what you call a devastating puncher, but I have hurt a lot of the guys that I fought in the US. I've knocked a few of them down. Just unfortunately haven't been able to finish them. But this time around, with Robert in the corner and a new team and a new method of training, God willing, we'll be looking for a good win.
And the main event of that night, I must say, I must get your thoughts on that. The 29th of July, as you said, Adrian Broner and your stablemate, gym mate, housemate, you may as well say, Mikey Garcia. How's he looking in the gym? Who do you see winning that fight, Billy?
Well, to be completely honest with you, Mikey's work ethic is second to none. This guy works extremely hard. You know, he deserves to be where he is because he is the meaning of hard training, to be honest with you. He really, really works hard. He's been sparring really well. He's been looking really, really well in the gym. And so, you know, he leaves no stone unturned. You know, he runs every day. He trains every day. I've done it all alongside him. So I've seen firsthand, you know, how this, future pound-for-pound star is training. And I believe that come July 29th, you know, Adrian Broner has definitely made a mistake sharing the ring with Mikey Garcia because it's very difficult to beat a man who is so confident in his ability. And, Mikey's undefeated for a reason, and I believe he will remain undefeated on the 29th.
Yeah, certainly a really good fight. Also, another one I wanted to get your opinion on. And the last real question I've got for you, to be honest, Billy, before we let you go. Triple G and Canelo. I know that it's a huge fight, everywhere in the world, but especially in America. I know it's got a lot of people talking over there. What's your thoughts on that fight?
I think it's a tremendous fight. You know, it's been a long time coming, but I think that, they've built the fight really, really well. In the end, Canelo had no choice but to fight GGG, and I feel that once that fight comes around, I think, you know, even though it will be a competitive fight, I feel that GGG will do really, really well, and I think he'll get a really decisive victory. You know, I'm expecting him to knock Canelo out. So, you know, I know that Canelo has a good chin, and I know he hasn't ever been knocked out before, but I've seen him hurt on a few occasions, and I feel that GGG is going to have the power to actually dominate him in that fight.
Yeah, certainly another fantastic fight. There's a lot to talk about at the moment. Boxing is booming. Right, just before we let you go, Billy, anything you want to tell our listeners? Anything you want to tell anyone? Any shout-outs you might want to give at all? Anything just before we let you go?
Yeah, I just want to say that I want to thank all the fans and supporters for all the support because without you guys, it wouldn't be possible. And, I'd like to dedicate this fight to my uncle who passed away yesterday, Ayaz. And so hopefully on July 29th, I'm going to make him really, really proud.
Okay, may he rest in peace, Billy. Listen, it's always great to speak to you. Best of luck for the 29th, and we'll catch up sometime afterwards.
My friend, God bless you. Thank you so much.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the preview part, but there's a little bit of news come out this week, and Ayaz is going to be the man for that. Ayaz, bring in this week's news.
Callum Smith will take on Eric Skoglund on September 16th at the Echo Arena in Liverpool as part of the World Boxing Series for the vacant WBC boxing diamond belt.
Yeah, Eric Skoglund is 26-0. Obviously, Callum Smith is 22-0. So both men undefeated. Both men can bang a bit, I suppose. Skoglund not really got the, the really high knockout ratio like Callum Smith's got, but he has mixed it arguably at better level. Some people would say he's fought some decent guys, including a really old Glenn Johnson. But no. He's been in there with Lalenga Mock, Luke Blackledge, guys like that. He's beaten. Obviously, he went the distance with Luke Blackledge, and Callum Smith knocked him out brutally. So I don't know if you can really go off much there, but no, he's probably. I mean, he's a good fighter and all that, but for me, he's probably one of the underdogs in the whole Super 8 thing. So I think it's a good fight for Callum Smith. He's going to probably look good in this one. They've managed to get the fight at the Echo Arena in his hometown. So, I think that, it's a good fight, but I think it's one he's going to probably win and win comfortably. The only thing I will say on that one, actually, is that, unfortunately, it's the same night as the Canelo and Golovkin card. So I know that Frank Warren's going to be doing like a undercard over here, so that's going to then clash with the Callum Smith fight. So I'm a bit annoyed about that, but yeah, that's all I can really say on that one.
Yes, Terry Flanagan versus Felix Verdejo has been postponed as Terry Flanagan has pulled a leg injury.
Yeah, he's got a leg injury. That one was actually supposed to happen on the same night. Again, it was supposed to happen on the 16th of September, as we just talked about, the Callum Smith fight, happening on the same day. This one was actually supposed to happen on the Frank Warren card, along with Billy Joe Saunders. That's now not happening. So, I feel for Terry Flanagan, really, because this one was going to be a really good fight. Hopefully they reschedule it.
Yep. Kez Ashbach and Olympic silver medalist Joy Joyce have turned professional and have signed with Haymaker Ringstar Promotion.
Yeah, David Hay, I think he's announced something that they're going to be, airing these fights on free-to-air TV. I think it's Channel Dave again. I'm not quite sure of the arrangement, but yeah, he signed these two Olympians, Ashfaq and Joyce. Obviously, Joyce being the guy that everybody's really excited about. I'm really looking forward to that, especially the fact they're going to be on free-to-air TV. I just hope that they're active enough, because we really need to see those guys, in a lot of fights pretty soon, because they're not getting any younger. And yeah, these guys really could have turned pro a little while ago. They've waited for it, so hopefully we see them out quite a few times. And hopefully Hay gets the dates and all that. But no, I'm looking forward to that.
And finally, the WBC have ordered a fight between Danny Garcia and Sean Porter.
Yes, what a fight. Hopefully this gets announced very soon. That's just a brilliant fight. Keith Thurman obviously fought both guys. He emerged victorious against both guys. It's for the WBC interim title, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that the winner's going to be in line again to fight Thurman. So it's going to be some kind of rematch. Hopefully this fight gets made. It's a brilliant fight. I'm going to just put you on the spot, Ayaz, actually. Who do you think would win that fight, Sean Porter or Danny Garcia?
I went for Danny Garcia.
I'd go for Sean Porter, but nah, it's a brilliant fight. Just testament there to how close this fight is. It's a real 50-50. Hopefully it happens. I know that Sean Porter made a video saying that he's fighting the cherry picker next. Hopefully this fight gets made, man. It's going to be a brilliant, brilliant fight. Is that it for the news, Ayaz, yeah?
Yes, it is.
Okay, my man. Right, let's get to the previewing. There's not too much to preview this week. One fight to mention over in Germany. Erkan Tepe, 16-2. His opponent is yet to be announced. It's a 6-rounder at heavyweight. That's all I've got for Germany. Moving over now to Puerto Rico in the Sheraton Puerto Rico Hotel and Casino in San Juan. One fight to mention over there. Amanda Serrano, 32-1 with one draw. The WBO World Female Super Bantamweight Champion. She puts her belt on the line over 10 2-minute rounds against Adina Kiss, who has a record of 13-4. So, Amanda Serrano, very good fighter. Looking forward to her. Also going over to Mexico now, former world champion Johnny Gonzalez. I actually thought he'd retired, but no, he's in bout number 74 here against Jesse Chris Rosales, 21-0 with one draw. It's for the WBC Latino Super Featherweight title. Johnny Gonzalez, 63-10 at the moment. Really interesting fight, I suppose. A 10-rounder there for that belt. That's it for Mexico, though. Moving over now to the Brentwood Centre in Brentwood, Essex. Top of the bill over there, Johnny Coyle, 16-0, takes on Innocent Anyamwu. Now, Johnny Coyle's a real good fighter. He's a traveller. He won prize fighter. His career hasn't really caught light since that, but he's 16-0. I've seen him fight a couple times at York Hall. That man can fight. I'm really excited to see what happens with him, but no, we need to see him in there against some decent guys. This one's going to be Innocent Anyamwu is actually a tough guy, but I expect Johnny Coyle to get the job done. But no, I definitely want to see what's next for him. John Wayne Hibbert's fighting again. He's 17-5. He takes on a man called Arvidas Trisno, who has a record of 25-65 with 3 draws. It's a 6-rounder at super welterweight there. Hopefully John Wayne Hibbert wins that fight. If he doesn't, I'm sure he'll retire, actually. Tyler Goodjohn on the bill as well, a former foe of John Wayne Hibbert. His record 12-5. He takes on Adam Barker, 4-0 at welterweight this one. I don't really know who Adam Barker is, but that should be decent. Sonny Edwards, the brother of Charlie Edwards, he's on this bill as well. His record 4-0. His opponent to be announced. It's a 6-rounder apparently at bantamweight. He's supposed to be a flyweight, so I'm not sure what that's about. Also on the bill, Dave Allen, 11-3 with 1 draw, takes on heavyweight Tom Dallas, 17-9. That should be a fun fight. It's a 4-rounder, that one. I'm sure that David Allen's going to go in there to try and take Tom Dallas's head off. But these 4-rounders are a little bit tricky. I'm very surprised it's a 4-rounder. I think I'm very surprised by that. I would imagine it should have really been a 6 or an 8 rounder. I think Dave Allen's more suited across the longer distance than Tom Dallas is. Also on the bill, the final fight to mention on this one, Lerone Richards 7-0 takes on Lewis Van Poach 5-48 with one draw. Journeyman, let's be honest, but Lerone Richards should get the job done here. I think he was at the Bradley Skeet fight the other day. I saw him there. So hopefully he moves to 8-0. It's a 4-rounder at super middleweight, that one. That's it for the Brentwood Centre in Essex. Moving over now to Italy. One fight to mention on this bill. Giovanni De Carolis, the old foe of Tyrone Zoiga, he's in a 12-rounder at super middleweight for the vacant WBA International Super Middleweight title. His record 24-7 with one draw. He takes on a man called Viktor Polyakov, 12-1 with one draw. I don't know anything about the guy, to be completely honest, but that's a fight we certainly have to mention. It's a fight of note to some degree. But that's really it. That's all the previewing. So there's no fights on TV this weekend. There's not really anything big to mention. So we've just whizzed through the level of fights that are just a little bit under the the top level, I suppose. So all the very best to everybody on the bills that we've mentioned, and all the guys that fought last weekend as well. That's of course the reviewing done. That's the news done. That's guest number 1 done. That's the previewing done as well. There's one last thing to do before we wrap up the show, but you should know this if you've listened before. It's of course to welcome guest number 2. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the new WBO Inter-Continental Welterweight champion, Mr. Gary Corcoran. Gary, welcome to the show.
Cheers, man. No problem.
Hey, it's my pleasure having you on, Gary. So, Gary, you fought on the Copper Box card a couple of weeks back against Larry Ekundayo. Now, firstly, ever since that fight got announced, I thought it was a brilliant fight. I saw it as a 50-50 in my honest opinion. Now, the problem being was that it was at welterweight, and obviously your best work up to that stage had been done at light middleweight, and you'd only had the one fight at welterweight since moving down in weight. And in that fight, you took it easy. You fought, let's be respectful, but a bit of a journeyman. So for me, I kind of saw the fight that, that's what I saw from your perspective. As for Larry Ekundayo, obviously we all know he won prize fighter as a light middleweight. That was quite a while back now. That was within a couple of fights, which was, a really big achievement. And then he moved down to welterweight, and he'd been there for about 3 years. And in that time, he had a couple of good wins, not to mention he was undefeated in 12 fights until he met you. So those facts made it a really hard fight to call. However, once again, Gary, you took another man's O. What did you make of that fight?
Yeah, it was a good fight. What I did do, I made it kind of messy. I made the fight kind of messy. It wasn't my best performance. But the main thing is I got the W, and that's. I'll find a way to win, and I'll find a way to win.
And Gary, where does Larry go from here? I know that his career's, it's been a little bit kind of hit and miss. He's won all his fights, but he's got a lot going on, obviously, outside the ring as well. Where do you see him going from here?
I hope he goes forward for that, because I know Larry well. I know him well, so I hope he goes on from that. He can learn from it. I learned from my lose. When I lost that fight, I was never a light middleweight. I was always in between. So he can learn from it. He can learn from that. Come back even better. Do what I do. Come back, fight whoever. Beat the best fellows in front of you, and that's how you'll prove yourself.
And Gary, I was saying on last week's podcast that you now become a hard fight for anybody at welterweight. Do you have your sights set on anybody in particular?
Yeah. My sights is to take over the welterweights in this country. I want to be ranked number 1. That's my plan, and I know I can come number 1 in the country. But just get me the fights. I just want the British title. I want the British title. Get the British, and see where it goes from there.
Obviously, it's looking like Bradley may vacate that title. He hasn't done it as of yet, but it's looking like he's going to vacate that after winning it outright on the same night as your fight. Do you know what? A fight I'd really like to see, and I don't know if it's going to happen. It could be a little bit of the promoters getting in the way of that, but I think you and Frankie Gavin's a really good fight.
Frank Gavin, I know Frank Gavin well. He's my mate. I know John Peggy's new trainers and that, and Soggy. And if that fight happens, it happens. It's business. Me and Frankie's mate as well. So it's business to me. Whatever's Whatever suits. If he wants to fight me for the British, I'll fight him. It doesn't matter. Whoever wants to fight me for the British, and the British is vacated, and it's just business.
Yeah, fair enough. After the fight, I didn't actually happen to see it because I was the other side of the ring, but you got in some kind of altercation with Liam Williams. What actually happened there, Gary?
10 days before the fight, and even less, about 7 or 8 days before the fight, there was something said ages ago about the fight, about Liam Williams, but he got nutted. He got nutted in the face, and he got a cut in his eye. But I said, I got 9 stitches on my eye. So when I fought him and he gave me a blatant headbutt, I said, I got on with it. That was from the third, fourth round. I said, get on with it. And I said, Liam didn't. Liam panicked. Went, and he jumped out. He said, I don't want to fight. So that's what I said. I said, basically, his arsehole went. That's all I said about him. From there, it kicked off.
And obviously, you just touched on there the Liam Williams and Liam Smith fight. That fight looks like it's going to be happening again sometime before the end of the year. How do you see the rematch playing out? I think Williams did really well, though.
No, listen, the thing I did say, I said Williams was winning. Williams was winning the fight, in my eyes. In my eyes, I had him 2-3 rounds up. But I think Liam Smith has his number now. I think Liam Smith has his number because he knows how to fight him. And if it looks like Liam blows out a win, Liam Williams blows out of win how Liam fights him. So I fancy Liam Smith to stop him later on again.
Okay, fair enough. And another huge fight. It's great that Box Nation have picked it up. Canelo and Triple G obviously happening, September. What's your take on that fight? Who do you see coming out victorious?
Golovkin winning that fight. You haven't seen his best lately in his last 1 or 2, but I think for this fight he's going to be well up for it. He needed a bit of a break, got that bit of a break. I think he's going to be well up for this fight. I think he's going to be well up, and I fancy him beating him strongly.
Yeah, certainly a brilliant fight. So at this stage, Gary, have you got any idea when you're back in the ring?
I'm going on holiday next week, so when I get back a few days, I'm going to be gone for a few days. And when I get back straight away, hopefully it'll be announced I'll be fighting some big fight, whatever big, because I'm ranked in it. I should be ranked in the top 10 in the world as well in the WBO. So see what fights they have for me, because there's not a fight in this country I wouldn't take after beating Larry anyway. Larry's probably one of the hardest to fight in this country at welterweight, and I just beat him. Know what I mean? So whatever they offer me, whatever's right for me and business, what's right for business on me. So that's the main thing.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of open doors for you at the moment. So yeah, as you said there, you're going on holiday. You going anywhere nice?
Yeah, I'm going to Ibiza for
Excellent.
a few days. Yeah, going to Ibiza for a few days. So when I get back, they get back down to the drawing board, see who we're fighting.
And I wanted to ask you this as well, but I think you've kind of made it a little bit clear during this interview. Will you be staying at 147 then? This is a question which would have been pointless asking it before this fight, because I think this fight was really the test which, you can ask yourself that question.
I will eventually move back up to light middle. I will eventually move back up, but not right now. I'm settled there right now. The fight before against James Gordon, the journeyman I fought over in Ireland, I was 10-5 and a half. I was 10-5 and a half. Last one was 10-7. So I'm always been a welterweight, but for the Liam Williams fight, if it's right on the table, a perfect fight, and for the perfect time, it means business sense, I will go up and fight Liam Williams again. That's no problem.
Is that the only fight you fancy at 154, or is that just the only fight that you've kind of got in your visions at that weight at the moment?
That's the only fight I got in my visions.
Yeah.
It's that one. That's the only fight I got in my visions at the moment, know what I mean? If I get offered to go up, there's a bigger fight, I'll take it, know what I mean? So, but the main thing to do is just concentrate on my career, just keep winning. And if he is a big title, I have a big title, let's do, why not?
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. And just before I let you go, Gary, have you got anything that you want to say to, any of our listeners, any shout-outs that you want to give anybody at all, anything like that?
No, I just want to say thank you to my sponsor, Ringside, for sorting me out with the gear and all that. So, yeah, it's a big thank you to my gym, Peacock Gym, and my trainers, Peter Stanley, Frank Reeves, and that's really it.
Okay, my man, okay. Listen, Gary, it's always a pleasure. I won't leave it as long next time to get you on the show. Thank you for your time, and we'll speak again very soon.
Yeah, all right, cheers, man. Nice and Joey.
Okay, that wraps up episode 92 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Ayaz Sumra has been Ayaz Sumra. A big thank you to our two guests, the former IBF Featherweight World Champion Billy Dibb and the new WBO Inter-Continental Champion Gary Corcoran. This has been episode 92. In that time, we've brought you over 187 guests, including over 30 world champions. This, my friends, is the podcast to listen to, but without the listeners it would all be for nothing. Thank you for making this podcast the #1 boxing podcast on the net. You can all take it easy this weekend, enjoy yourselves, sit back, put your feet up. It's a boxingless weekend, and it's a perfect one to spend a bit of time with the family. Tell the wife she does in fact come before boxing, say all the love yous and all the right things, and get it all done before next weekend comes about. Thank you for listening, people, and we'll be back next week. God bless.